Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this new series called Slow Journaling. Go downstairs. I've got Fred on my knee, so she's trying to jump up as well. I just wanted to explain a little bit about what's going to happen in this series. It's not sort of a how-to as such, although I will be sharing... Stella, go down. I will be sharing how-to, or how I do. Oh, he's off. It's more sharing my process when I make an art journal. So I'm going to use the eco-printed papers and cloth that I did in a recent two-part video, which I will link to in the, more down below. If you click the word more, you'll see the links. And I'm going to use an old book cover for the outer part of my journal, and I'm going to make all other kinds of bits and bobs to go in. So it's not a series of tutorials. Sorry, I was distracted because there was a robin on the neighbour's fence. He's gone. Sorry. It's not a series of tutorials as such, it's just me sharing my process and the journey. And the first thing I'm going to do is take Stella up into the woods and with a little bit of cloth and make a little bundle to bury somewhere in the woods to go in the journal at one point. And this is just kind of a little ritual, if you like. You don't have to do any of it. You can follow along and just watch, or you can take things out that speak to you and include them in your own journaling practice if you're already journaling. Or if you're completely new to the idea of creating your own journal, then maybe you'd like to follow along step by step. But anyway, so I hope that's okay. And we'll go to the woods now and have a little walk, and then we'll come back and I'll sit at my desk and I'll show you the bits and bobs that I've gathered for just the first stage. It's not, this is everything you need for the whole process. We're going to just take it step by step. It's a journaling journey, a slow journaling journey. So let's go to the woods. So I've come to the woods with Stella, who's having a wee. It's typical. That's the third time she's had a wee on video within the last 2 weeks. There's someone coming. I'll just wait until they've gone by. So Stella, here. New friend apparently. So what I want to do is make a little cloth bundle and bury it here in the woods somewhere. And leave it for an indeterminate length of time, and then try to retrieve it. Now, if you've been following along with the Monday Slow Stitch videos, we did this as in the spring solstice, Northern Hemisphere, called book bundles or something of that kind. Now, I just want to say and make it absolutely clear that when I do this, I only ever put biodegradable materials in the bundle, in case it's lost, so I don't want to be putting plastic in the environment. So I've got a little piece of linen, I've got a bit of rusty wire that I picked up actually in the woods the other day, and I'm going to gather some leaves and make my bundle and put it somewhere in the ground. So I'll walk on a bit and I'll look for a couple of leaves, not many, just 2 or 3, and then I'll show you the bundle in a little while. So here's what I've chosen. 3 beech leaves, a green, a yellow and a brown. And here's my little bit of iron that I picked up the other day. And I'm going to wrap, and I've got a piece of linen and some string, just natural jute string. So I'm going to wrap these leaves and this bit of iron up in this bit of cloth around this little bit of beech stick that I picked up under the tree. And then I'm going to bury it at the base of this beech. There's her trunk. Stells, stay here. And I'll just show you the canopy. Beautiful big old tree. So I'll have to turn the video off to make my bundle. I should have brought the tripod, I'm sorry. But I'll show you the bundle and when I bury it. Okay, ticking wasn't happening. I bent my spoon. So I found this little nook at the base of the beech tree here, and I've just tucked it in there, and I'm just going to cover it over with leaves and hope for the best. So that's my gathering bundle for my new journal. So it's at the... Stella, don't dig it up. It's at the base of this tree, which I'll pass every day. Stella, please don't retrieve the bundle just yet, which I'll pass every day so I can keep an eye on it. Oh, she's going to dig over there. She's seen me digging, so she wants to dig. So yeah, I'm going to go back home now and sit at my desk and start the next stage. Okay, so I've got a basket, and in it I've put all the things to start with. Like I said, I'm not, you know, some things won't go in and I might add more things as I go along. So I've got my book cover. I showed a few book covers in the second part of the eco printing video, and this is the one I've decided to go with. So I'm going to get the cover off that later and show you how I do that. This is the cloth and paper that I eco printed, this big stack. And I've also got here a little card, which was my entry card to Stourhead Gardens, where I collected some of the leaves, because it's got this photograph of this woman called Hester Littleton on it, and I thought I might include that in the journal because it's, you know, the leaves are part of the story and so is she. So I'll set those to one side. Just to say, you can do this with any papers and cloths that you've got. If EcoPrint doesn't speak to you, or you don't fancy having a go at eco printing, you can just gather together any scrap papers, you know, any kinds of papers that you've got laying around, and any cloths that you've got laying around, and, you know, just put together a selection that speaks to you in terms of colours and textures and so on. So yeah, absolutely doesn't have to be eco printing. These are some of the leaves that I saved from the eco printing. So these have been through the bundle because they had lovely rusty marks on, and I've actually waxed them. Now I'll put a link again in the section below the video if you click on the little word more. I did a little video some time ago showing how I wax leaves, and these I've actually waxed with beeswax. In the video I used candle ends, you know, leftover bits and bobs from candles, which was almost certainly paraffin wax, but either will work. A friend of mine gave me some honeycomb, and I strained the honey out and washed the wax and crumbled it up, and that's what I've used. And also there's some leaves here that I've picked up, you know, fallen leaves from the woods as well. There's a big beech leaf. So I've got those. Set them to one side, get rid of that paper that they were sitting on. This is just a jumble, I just threw it in. I haven't sorted it in any way. So I've been through my scraps and I've pulled out little scraps, like that's the hem off a blouse or something that's been rust dyed. But, you know, just tiny little textural scraps. So you can do the same with your palette, whatever that may be. This is a little scrap that came off a pocket on an apron which has got stitching on. You know, just bits and bobs. Bits and bobs, tiny bits and bobs. That's something I trimmed off a piece of work, which has also already got stitching on. That's a bit of silk chiffon. There's some scrim, you know, cheesecloth type stuff. Just stuff, just, you know, a little pile of stuff. And I would say don't get loads, that's a handful, that's more than enough. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with too many choices. I've probably got too much in here and I probably will edit it down. I've got a couple of tea bags. You know, dried tea bags that had tea in. I've got some little offcuts of eco print paper, but obviously your papers could be any kind of paper. If you save scrap paper, you know, little, but as much variety as you can save. And if you haven't got all this now, don't worry, you can begin the process and then, you know, start saving things, because it's slow journaling. I don't know how long this is going to take. It's not important, it's the journey. These are some other little bits that I printed with a friend of mine, you know, with paint in her studio. But again, it's just scraps of paper. So I'll put those to one side. I'm going to have to tidy my desk up afterwards. I always make a mess when I'm journaling. This is a bit of sketchbook card, you know, the cardboard that's on the back of a sketchbook. And I'll just put this in here because this will be for my spine of my book, of my journal. So if you haven't got some sturdy cardboard, you could start looking out for some and save a bit. That's just some tea dyed old sketchbook of mine that I've tea dyed. It's the end paper of a book. This tin I'll show you in a minute. That's another bit of cloth that came in a lovely little parcel from Vicky. but it was lovely colours, and it already looks to me like a page because it's got this lace trim on it. And also all this lace came from Vicky as well. I think some of it's been tea dyed, so if you've got bits of lace or trim or, you know, whatever, if you're not into grunge, that can obviously be bright colours or whatever you like. This also came out of the parcel from Vicky. This is some, you know, stuff that you could twine into cord, but I just love the colours of it. That probably, possibly, maybe something to do with the closure of the journal at the end, but I can also use bits of it in among, just to give you an idea of the sort of stuff. This is, I think, commercially printed cloth, but it, you know, it just fitted with the colour scheme. This has got some text on it. And another bit of lace. I've got these lovely washing laundry buttons on the card. I mean, even the card I'm capable of including just because I like, you know, those things. A little jar of pearl buttons, also from Vicky. There's some buttons on a card with the word buttons, so that can, you know, that's a little element ready-made. This is some more vintage paper, ledger paper, paper with handwriting on, you know, just paper. That's from a book. These also came from Vicky, I believe. And that's just some thread that was in there to remind me to bring it back into here. That's some black silk chiffon, and that's another bit of, a long bit of eco print silk, which might also be for twining, I don't know. I'll put that with the other long bits. And then I've got here some giant paper clips. Now these are essential. Well, no, they're not. You could, any kind of clip, you know, if you've got bulldog clips or whatever. But they're handy for holding the signatures together if you sort of, you know, want to keep everything together before it's bound. So I've got those. And then these, let's get this all out of here and get the basket away. These also came from Vicky. I probably will use something, but I just wanted to show you how wonderful they are. Look at these. These are all key plates. All old key plates. So I think one of those on the cover might be happening. We'll see, but they're just gorgeous. Thank you so much, Vicky. And to go with them, this bunch of old keys. This is lovely. It says Dreams on it. Lovely old keys. So, you know, things like, if you find things like that, if you've got those kind of drawers in your house where things get thrown in, you know, because they don't get thrown away, but you know, an English comedian once referred to them as man drawers. It's like the man's drawer in the kitchen. Well, I've always called it a woman drawer. But anyway, and these are some little tabs with lovely messages on. There's Emily Dickinson there, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. And so I thought one of these might be an inspirational quote that might inform, I'm not sure yet, that might inform the theme of the journal. In every walk with nature, one receives far more than they seek. So you could maybe start thinking about words, and it doesn't have to be on lovely tags like this, just, you know, favourite quotes of yours or whatever. And then finally I got this little tiny tin with some treasures, which I'll tip out. These are stitch markers for knitting, and they're great because you can kind of use them like paper clips. Not paper clips, the other thing, safety pins, and you know, pin things onto your journal. Equally, you could have safety pins, just normal safety pins. There's some little bells on that one. Or little things like this. I don't even know what this is. I just have a little box with, you know, bits and bobs in. It's a little ring on a thing. But anything with holes in, obviously it's good to stitch through, to stitch it onto things. I've got some clock faces, also from Vicky. Such generosity. There's some beads, some bells. Oh, and some vintage hooks, and I think the eyes are here as well, hooks and eyes. They're also great for in journals. So just to give you an idea, you know, this sort of stuff. Some more safety pins. That is a little chainy thing that's come off something, probably attaching a tag to an item of clothing or something like that. Just, you know, be a magpie. If you're new to this, be a magpie. There's a feather, These were left over. I made some cards for an exhibition recently, and I stamped the word forage on them, and these two were left over. So I thought, you know, why not put them in my little tin. So there we go. So that's just an overview of the kind of stuff, and obviously your stuff can be different, but just you need stuff. Gather some stuff. So I'm going to get my book cover and just show you. I've buried my craft knife now. Now with book covers, when you look at old books, they're often one of two ways. Either the spine is stuck on all the way down to the, so these are the covers, obviously, the anatomy of a book. These are the covers. This has lost its end papers. It would have had end papers here, probably this same colour. You see it's been torn there, not by me, it was like this when I got it. And there. And then you've got the headers, this little thing here, and at the bottom a footer. I think that's what it's called, I can't remember now. Anyway, and then you've got the spine, but you see here the spine was glued to the text, and this is called the text block. So if you want to get a cover off a book completely, and you know, just use the cover as is, you need to find one where the spine is not glued to the text block, because you won't get that off. I don't know if I've got one to show you. Oh, look here, just thought about, how about this one? So if you just gently pull, you probably can't see, but if you just gently pull here and look, and you should be able to see, when my thumb's not in the way, if the spine is independent of the text block. And in that case you can then cut carefully through here, you know, through here and through here, and then the text block will come out, and then you'll have the cover entire if you want to then, you know, use the cover as is. But I'm going to just use the covers and not the spine, because the spine's way too skinny. I'm going to make a new spine with my bit of cardboard that I showed you. So all I'm going to do there is find my knife, which I've buried, which is very dangerous. I've got this little craft knife. If you don't have a sharp knife like this, you could get the, you know, the blade of some scissors or something. Just be very, very careful, obviously, not to cut yourself. Now this is all ready. I'm just going to stand up and check you can see. I think you can. This is already coming apart here, so keeping my fingers well out of the way, I'm just going to get my knife in there. And what I want to preserve is the cover. So I don't mind if I damage the text block. So it's coming away quite easily. So there's my front cover. And then I'm just going to do the same to the back. Keep my fingers behind the knife at all times. And if I damage the cover, I don't really mind, because I'm probably going to stick things on it and things anyway. So if I damage it in any way, I shall just mend the damage and make it a feature. I'm going to put that. So where's its box? It's a little kit. I'm just going to put it away, because I don't like the blades left out, not for myself and certainly not for the animals. This unscrews, and then it's got a magnet on the other end, so you can put it in place. It should have voice activated magnets. There we go. And put it all back in its box. That's quite old, that, but it's quite handy. So this is my text block. Now obviously you can use pages out of these books, but if you get into this you'll end up with a million text blocks, because you'll use the cover and a few pages but never the whole thing. But I also use them, it's called a glue book. I only discovered it recently. So if you want to glue things, you know, like you get your glue stick and you put your thing on there that you want to glue, and glue your little thing, and then you can turn the page and do it on the next page and so on. Do you see what I mean? So if I wanted to glue this leaf onto something, I could put the leaf on there, and then I wouldn't need to worry about getting glue on my surface. And then next time you want to glue, you turn the page, and you know, I thought it was a wonderful idea. You could use anything, it doesn't have to be, you know, text blocks from vintage books, old catalogues, or, you know, phone books, whatever. They still have phone books. So there we go. So, and in terms of glue, I use either a glue stick. This actually, my friend gave me, well, she gave it to me to take to an exhibition. in case I needed to glue stick anything. There's a bit left in it. I've still got another lovely glue stick that Helen gave me back in May. I don't use glue very often, but put the lid back on so it doesn't go dry. And then the other thing I've got is this. I actually bought this in France in a Dutch shop called Action, but it's just PVA, I think. It's just, you know, like school glue. I don't use anything very toxic or, you know, I mean, it's in a plastic bottle, but... And that's probably all I'll use, and everything else I'll stitch. So, you see my cover is a bit raggedy, so you could either trim that off neatly with some scissors or something, or probably I'll just leave it and I'll see what happens when I come to make the spine. And if you find it's coming apart like that, you could just squeeze a bit of glue in there, but again I'll leave that till the end. But I like to have the cover to start with because that is kind of my framework. So this is my size. In terms of thickness, you know, how fat I'm going to have my book. Might be this big, might be this big. It probably won't be that big. I won't decide that now. I'll do that later in the process. So, but I've got my covers, so I can now make a start. And what I like to do is get some pages folded, just to kind of, you know, make a start, give myself something to work with. Because if you're just looking at a pile of stuff, it can be a little bit intimidating. So I'm going to have a bit of a tidy up, I think, first. Do I need to have a bit of a tidy up? No, I won't have a bit of a tidy up. I'll just get all... So I'm going to get all this paper. This wasn't from the Eco Print bundle. This was all the other bits of paper. I might have cloth pages as well, but I think I'll start with some paper pages. There's no, you know, rhyme or reason to why I do what I do, and it's different every time. But the basic structure of what I do is the same. I've buried all my papers. Talk amongst yourselves. Here they are. So I've got my Eco Print papers, and I've got the other papers that I gathered, and I've got my cloth. This is just, I like to work with some order, otherwise I find it a bit overwhelming. Right, I've got my cloth, but you know, maybe that's me. So I'm going to just start by sort of spreading them out somewhat. I hope you can see enough. Move all that stuff out of the way and see what speaks to me, basically. Just see what speaks to me first, what shouts the loudest. These words are shouting at me because they're words, and they're speaking to me on a personal level because of life changes I've had, but I don't know if I want that to be in this journal. So I might put that away face up. It says discard on the other side because it's an old library book. I'm not sure I want that in my head. Anyway, part of the process. We'll see. We'll see, we'll see. So I'm just going to spread all this out and just see what speaks to me the loudest. And I remember this little piece when it came out of the bundle. I just loved it with this at the bottom. And so then I'll take my book cover, and you see that is the size of a single page. But you need, I do, in principle, I make folded signatures. So if I had this as a page, for example, I would fold that like that, and then that will go in the book. And you see that would be a good size, that fits. I don't mind if it's smaller. I don't really like it to be too much bigger. It can stick out a bit, but not loads. So if I want to put this in my book, I'll need to stitch it to something, you know, to bind this edge in. Or I could fold it like that, or maybe I'll fold it like that. I think actually I like it like that. And then obviously that's small enough, that will fit within the bounds of my journal. So this, I have this to one side just to make sure, you know, as I'm going along that the size is right. So let's say that's the first, this is now called a folio, if you don't know the bookmaking jargon. So that's my first page. It is handy if you've got room to work. if you can spread your stuff out, you know. I mean, you do you obviously, I just like to be a bit organised. And this is speaking to me because it's lovely and it just goes nicely with that. So I might just fold that in half as well. And do that. And then I sort of have a look, do I like that? Peeping out of there. All this will change probably many times before I'm done. And I prefer it like that somehow. I think actually what I want to do is, I think I'm going to fold this off centre. So I'm going to offer it up to my cover and then fold it like that. And I don't mind if things don't line up, but if you want things to line up, then, you know, fiddle about with them. And I'm not doing sharp creases or anything at this stage because, again, like I said, it might change. And then if I put that inside there, then you see that edge. And that, I like the look of that now. So I'm going to call that, those two are, you know, married together. I'm going to get some EcoPrint paper. These were the bits of cardboard around the outside of my bundle. I'm not sure they'll be pages because they're quite thick. They might be, but I'm just going to put those to one side for now as well. And anything like this, which is an image which will probably be stuck or glued or stitched or something, maybe onto another page at one point, I'll set that to one side as well, just for now. I've got this with the knitting hands. That went through the EcoPrint. I'm just going to see for size that will be, will that fit? Hole. And if it's too big, then you can do things like this. So you can fold it and have a look at the image and see where you might want to fold it. I think there will be okay, because then I can still see the hands. And then I can fold this like that. So then it fits within the bounds of my cover. And it's interesting then because it's making these little flip outs. And you could have it flipping out that way, or I could have had it, you know, I could have had it flipping out that way, but I want to fold somewhere so that I can bind it in. Now I don't know if that's going to go with that. I think I might start another signature. The little books within books are called signatures, and I think I'm going to work with 3. That's a good number. So I'll say that's in another signature to that. This is paper, maybe I'll go for cloth. The clock's chiming, as you can hear. I've got this lovely piece of cloth, which is linen. That is quite a bit bigger. Do I mind that hanging out of the edge like that? I think for me that's a little bit too big. So again, I'll put the fold in slightly. And again, try it. Yes, and then I could either tear that off and use that somewhere else, or I could fold that in, you know, like that, or I could even fold it in like that, and then I could make that into a pocket. So if that's bound into the book, you know, imagine that's bound into the book along that fold there. You could stitch here and here and then put a little button on there or something, and then you've got a little pocket that you could include something in. So I think I'll leave that whole for now and decide later if that's what I'm going to do. And I like those colours together, so I might put that like that. And you know, all this can move, it can all still move at any point. And this now is flimsy because it's cloth and the paper was flimsy. So then from a structural point of view, I want something a bit sturdier to go around that. Maybe this piece that was folded to EcoPrint. That's a good size. So let's just tuck that in there. And I just like to do this to make these signatures to start, and then I've got something to work with rather than just looking at nothing, and trying not to overthink or get bogged down in details at this point, because all these can and probably will be swapped around. So I've got 2, and now I feel I need to start the third one at least, so I know where I'm going with it. Maybe I'll start with a bit of cloth. Maybe I want some of this dark onion skin cloth. You see, I've got this woolly blanket, but it's quite thick. But I do want to use it because it's just yummy. But I don't know if I want to use it as a signature because it's going to be quite hard to bind through. So I could use it somehow as, you know, glue it somehow into the cover. I could also use it, of course, when this is my book and I've got a spine here. I could also use it as the spine cloth. I'm not sure it goes completely well with that. I'm not sure where it's going, so it'll go back to one side for the moment. Let's try something else. What have we here? I'm just riffling through till something speaks to me. What about some of this? Again, that's quite a small piece. Of course, you could sew that to something else. How about if that gets sewn to that somehow? I quite like the idea of some part of this curve being a page. You know, something like that. Maybe if I have that like that so that sticks out. I'd rather have something a bit longer. It's not the same dark colour. Maybe we'll come back to the dark colour. So I hope this isn't too chaotic for you, but this is how I do it. And about this. Oh, that's quite nice, isn't it, with the words on? So I think that's going to happen somehow. So that will be stitched to that. It'll obviously be made shorter. And then that will be the page. Do you see? Do it better than that, Catherine. So then it can be bound through this fold when it comes to be bound to the spine of the book. And then I've got this lovely edge to the page. So what I would either do is go ahead and just cut that and stitch that right now, or I would just pin them together and just pin that to that with a pin. I haven't got a pin, let's use a giant paper clip. It's not really the thing for the job, but my pins are the other side of the room. So just attach those together in some way so that I know that that's what I'm going to do with that. So I'll just carry on working like that basically. Let me just carry on with this middle one just to show you what sort of stage I get to before I go any further. So I'll set those to one side. So this middle one, you don't want them to get too thick because you have to be able to get your needle and thread through there, you know, through the fold of all of them. I'm talking as if you haven't done any bookbinding before, so if you have and you know, then, you know, ignore me, ignore the bits that aren't relevant. I want to put something plainer in there, I think, just to balance that eco print. About this postcard, not sure about the colour. Neither. You see why I said it was slow, but it's enjoying, that's better, it's enjoying the process. So somewhere I've got a ruler which I've probably buried. There it is. Oops, sorry, clangy noise. I always like to tear rather than cut, but again, that's just me. I just like the torn edges. Now this has got some writing and some sketch I did on it. So I want it to be, it can be higher. In fact, it's slightly too high. I think I'm going to just tear a little bit off each end. I'll just run my nail along. This metal ruler's got a beveled edge, so it's nice to tear against. It actually would have been better on a firmer surface, on a cutting mat or just on a table, but it makes a lot of clangy noise. These little bits, that's a very thin bit, but still I'll keep that because I never know whether that might come in as collage or something later. So I'll tear just about 1/2 inch off the other side. Trying to tear less than 1/2 inch is not easy. There we go. And so now you see that's about 1/4 inch shorter top and bottom than the cover. Now this has got a hard edge, but maybe I don't mind that because I'll probably end up attaching something to it. And again, I might fold it off centre. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it round. I'm going to have that nice torn edge the size of the book. And then I'm going to fold it there, so it's the width of the cover. So then I've got this edge here. I could then stitch something to that. I could either stitch, you know, another bit of paper, a piece of paper to it, or a piece of cloth, or some lace, or something. So I'm going to leave that like that. And later on I'll decide whether I want it poking up at the top or poking down at the bottom, or, you know, somewhere halfway or whatever. But for now I'll just put it in there like that. It could have some more pages, I think. I do feel I want to use some of this lovely, put that away in case it's glary, some of this lovely texty, like that's nice, isn't it? That's very nice. Let's have that. So I'm just looking at all the edges that are showing. I'm just thinking, how much of that do I want to show? I mean, obviously you'll see it when you turn the page, but as you turn each page you'll see the other pages that are coming, and you know how they play off each other. I think I'll go for that for now. And then maybe this dark piece. There's a watercolour paper. See, that needs to be less, and that's already got quite a firm fold in it because it got eco printed with that fold. I'm just going to the middle just to see. Yeah, I can still get through that, I'm pretty sure. I think I will. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, whoops, it's all falling apart, never mind. Don't know whether I'm going to be able to tear this, but I'm going to give it a go. There are all kinds of fancy gadgets and gizmos you can get to make raggedy tears and things, but I don't have those. But that works well enough. Now that edge now is white, but later on I do have some ink. I ink edges of everything just to grunge things up. Right, let's get my book back how it was, my little folio. No, I missed a bit. Right, so now I can get this right, how I want it, even though I know it's going to shift. You know, it's not until it's bound in you can change everything, and things will move even with the giant paper clips. But I just like to see it, because it's the journey, it's not the finished product. No, see, I'm liking that now because I've got something plain, something with text on, an eco print, and then I've got that bit of cloth which needs folding back in. That will not now be my pocket, will it? Because I've gone in the middle of it. I expect you're all shouting at me. And my pocket needs to stay like that. Then I can't bind through it, can I? Yes I can. Yeah, I can bind through it first and then stitch those two edges afterwards. That'll be okay. So I'll keep that as the centre of the signature, so that can be a pocket. So my plain paper needs to go around it. So then, so even if it wasn't a pocket, I kind of like the middle of a signature to be very special, and I like the outer page or pages when you first see the signature, because I don't yet know whether this will be what you see when you first open the book or whether it will be in the middle or at the end. I'll decide that later, but I just like the beginning of each signature and obviously the first pages that you see to be special. Now that, if I put that on there, you see that's sticking out quite a lot, so I could either fold that or tear it off. Oh, it's quite thick watercolour, so I think I'm going to tear it off. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tear not all of it off, and I shall tell you why in a second. I'm going to tear down to about from about here. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to tear it and just leave a little bit at the bottom, maybe 1.5 inches or so. And tear it that way. There we go. Because that can be a little tab, so I could put a word on there or stitch something to it, or you know, so it's a page with a sort of built-in tab. So now, and I don't really count pages, you know, you'll hear bookbinders saying so many pages per signature when everything's all different thicknesses and everything and textures and so on. Number of pages is not really helpful, so it's just more a question of just every now and then just opening it up to the middle and just thinking, can I stab through there with a pokey tool? And I think I still can. Remembering not to, if I had pins here, I'd pin that close, so I remembered not to put something in the middle. Anyway, if it doesn't happen, you know, if the pocket doesn't happen, if something else happens, it doesn't really matter either. That's just all part of the journey. So, and then once I've got this, now I've got something to work with. Just checking again, I'm just frightened I'm going out of frame. So I can flip through and just have a look how it looks, see how it feels, you know, see if there's anything that's... This is very plain, but this is just the start. There will be embellishments going on, and also I want to journal in this when I've made the book. I want to then add to it, so you want some, you know, clear spaces so that you can write or sketch or stick images or whatever. So I'm just going to go through and look, and that will be my pocket. That's upside down, but I quite like that. Obviously it bothers you, if it bothers you that things are the right way up, and pay more attention than I did. Yeah, well, I quite like the feel of that. I think I'd want one more page round it, at least one more page, and that might be some cloth. I've got this big piece. This was what was around the outside of my bundle. I'm thinking I might make a wrap for this, so it won't have a stitch cover because I'm using the book cover, but I'm thinking it might have maybe a separate wrap, a separate piece of cloth that ties around it to keep it safe and stop things falling out. So I might preserve that for that. So I'm not going to tear that up for pages just at this moment. Maybe we want some of this lovely old ledger paper, which is from the Brotherhood of Locomotive Firemen and Engine Men, printed in the USA, and it's dated 1923. And I don't know what all the numbers mean. $1,500. You can get distracted for hours. Height, weight, eyes, hair, it says here. I don't know why. Anyway, but the name here says Ballas, B-A-L, Ballas or Bales, Angel. And just the word angel jumped out at me. And there's someone else on the back, Mr. E, something else, I can't read the writing. But I like that where it says angel. So I think I'm going to tear this to have that sideways. So I'm just using my cover as a guide. I quite like the word brotherhood as well. Reminds me of the Brotherhood of Man. Do you remember them? Or do you know them even in other countries? They were in the 70s. They did a song for the Eurovision Song Contest called Kisses for Me. They were called the Brotherhood of Man. There was women in as well. I don't know why they were called the Brotherhood, but anyway. So I've got the word brotherhood and I've got the name angel. And I want to keep these little holes. But I can't have both. Can't have both the hole and brotherhood and stay in my book. So either I have it poking out, or I fold it in some way, or I have to, you know, lose one or the other. I think I'm going to tear it here somewhere and use this somewhere else. It won't be wasted, that's for sure. So I'm going to just tear it down there somewhere. Oh, that one's it's quite brittle, this paper. Well, the other thing I use sometimes if paper's brittle, when I'm binding, I might put some masking tape along where I'm going to bind it, but I'll show you that when we get to that. Just to strengthen it a bit. So if we have this, again I'm not going to put a hard crease in it yet, just going to audition. I just like to see all these lovely edges. If I had that there, I want to see where the word angel is going to show up. See, that's going to get a bit lost in the binding. I do like to see that, but then I won't see that. But does that matter? Because I still see that. I did tell you it was a journey. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that because then I can put something on here so that when you open this, there's something here of interest. Or I can journal on there, or, you know, we'll see. But I like the look of that. I'm going to put a hard crease on, you know, not a hard crease. I don't really do bone foldy creases. There's not really any point with cloth. You could iron creases in. But since nothing's lined up and it's all skew if anyway, I don't think you need that level of precision. Maybe I'll fold this way, just for a change. So I've got this little thing of substance now, this little substantial thing. And it really feels like you've made a start, because then you can sort of audition, you put your covers together, put your little booklet in there, and when you've done your other two as well, if you're going to do 3, that's maybe sticking out too far, I might have to shorten that, but anyway, we'll see. We'll see when there's other stuff going on. So if you've got that and you've done the same, you know, with your other signatures, it feels like you've got something, you know. So if I sit here for another hour or so and do the same to the other 2, it'll feel like I've got something to go on. And then I would go and edit down all my other supplies, get rid of, or not get rid of, but, you know, put away for another project, all the bigger pieces, and just come back with just the small bits and the lace and the bits and bobs, and then work within that. So I'm going to stop recording now, because that's been getting on for an hour by the time, you know, I had the other bits, you know, me at the beginning and the walk in the woods. So I'm going to go and do some work on the other 2 signatures in exactly the same way that I made this one, and then in 2 weeks' time I'll come back and start working within those signatures. So what I would invite you to do, if you'd like to follow along, is to gather whatever supplies you've got. You know, find yourself a book cover if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to use a book cover, you could just get yourself 2 bits of cardboard. That off the back of sketchbooks is quite good, you know, that sturdy cardboard, or just cereal box cardboard or whatever. You could even glue several layers together, and then you could maybe paint on it at one point, or you could stick some fabric over it, or some fancy paper collage, whatever, you know, just make yourself a cover basically. But I would suggest that you determine at least the size of your cover. You don't need to decorate it yet. So if you don't want to use a book cover, just find a couple of bits of cardboard, you know, and make the cover whatever size you think you want it to be. And then start creating some signatures. And you've got 2 weeks. I'm doing it 2 weekly because every other Friday is the Park Home Life, and we've still got the Wonky Wednesdays and the Mondays going on, so, you know, I don't want to overwhelm you or myself. So I hope that was, you know, an interesting start, which I'm calling The Gathering, because it's gathering everything together and gathering us all together. And I hope that, you know, you're inspired to have a go, and that you don't mind that it's a bit of a magical mystery tour if you've never journaled before. And meanwhile, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to you joining me next time for more Cloth Tales. Bye bye.